shit luck that the guy came home and he pursued it. And he caught his wife, and we went there. We asked him to leave for the night, and then about a week later, we saw him in a moving truck, and he unlike you, Dave, he got the couch.
Did he get the couch?
He was moving all his stuff out of the house.
Good for him. Good for that guy.
So you didn't need any technology. You don't need anything. You just need to be observant.
Yeah, this was a wild one. I knew a woman years ago. She came home. Guy was with his best friend, male. He had apparently been living a lie with her.
Yeah.
And so she comes in and she finds her husband and his best friend naked together in that way.
A little tickle party.
Yeah. And it's it wasn't crime related, but it was sad because obviously sad that they get into that situation, sad that they were in that situation in the first place, sad that the guy felt like that, and then obviously sad for her because she comes in and everything she's believed is wrong.
Yeah, very traumatic. It's very traumatic, and we go to a lot of these calls, and you can just look at a person's face, and they can see their marriage or their family just crumbling right in front of our eyes.
Yeah,
and a lot of times it's sad.
Yeah, it's got to be incredibly sad, but of course it's also dangerous. I mean, so let's look at the primitive way, pre-smartphone way. Well before, we'll call this BN. Before Nathan.
Oh, before Nathan. Okay.
You had to, if you thought your spouse was cheating on you, you had to follow him around. You had to pay for somebody.
A private detective would do it. But the thing about private detectives and the ones that I know, they'll usually tell you that they'll interview the person and say, hey, if we find out that your husband or wife are cheating, are you stable enough that you're not going to become violent toward them? Because the last thing a private detective wants to do is have that information, give that information out. Now he creates a situation where the husband or wife gets volatile and criminal behavior happens and people get assaulted.
Isn't that a film noir?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was thinking. That's exactly how.
Detective, I think my husband's been unfaithful.
Yeah.
Your husband wouldn't know faith if you put him in a church, missy.
Wow.
I'll take the case, but for the diamonds round your neck.
Oh, detective! You're so manly.
Oh boy, I had no idea it was going to go in that direction, but that was good though.
I knew he was going to go in that direction. I just didn't know he was going to go so long with it. He creates three characters. He did everything but a gunfight.
This is the script I've been working on.
Oh, okay.
Since 1937.
Yeah, so in the old days, you would have like voice-activated recorders when someone started having a conversation, whether they were home or at work, or you'd have little things like were camouflaged in the house, like a voice-activated recorder disguised as a vase or something like that.
He was saying camouflage in the house, and all I could think of is a private detective wearing camouflage, maybe a bush, dressed as a bush, sitting in the house. The other thing, how about decoys? You have any experience?
Oh, I mean, a decoy. I've known private detectives that have sent attractive young ladies into a bar where the husband was at, and that detective or private detective would be trying to hit on the husband and kind of get a feel if he was willing to do that so they can report that back to the wife.
Real private investigator would just dress up as a woman and go in there and hit on the husband.
Yes.
I caught you red-handed with your hands down my pants, sir. You've been unfaithful.
Wow. It sounds like Rudy Giuliani in the Borat movie.
Oh, that's beautiful. And another one we had, and this was another one early on in my career, we had a young girl.
Yep.
She met a guy from like 20 miles away. And she met him I don't know how she met him, but they went out for a month or two, and they were in their 20s. And after a couple of months, she determined that he was a little weird, a little creepy.
All right. Took a couple of months to figure that out?
Well, you've run that gamut before, right? Sometimes it takes a couple of months, Dave, right?
For me, it takes a couple of years, generally.
So anyway, after they broke up, and like I said, he lived around 20 miles away, right outside of Boston. She saw him at the movies one night. She saw him out in a restaurant. She saw him at a theater where there was a concert.
They just happened to be in the same place. He just happened
to show up. And like I said, she was in her 20s, so she was concerned, but she wasn't sure how it happened. Maybe it just happened chance. But then she went down to Jiffy Lube.
Yep.
I would never recommend going to Jiffy Lube because they rip you off. However, that's a story for another day.
Different story. Different story.
Yeah, her car was up on the lift, and they were giving her an oil change. And the guy doing the oil change called her and said, hey, under one of your tires, we found a magnetic GPS system. So I guess this kid,
Yeah.
he put a GPS tracker on her car, and he would just log in from his computer, because this
Yeah.
was pre-smartphone. He would
Okay.
log in from his computer, and he would know where she would be for the night or
back
the day.
then, if I wanted
and
to
he
track
stalked her.
you, when I was a kid, if I wanted to stalk you, I had to walk all the way to my computer. Now I just have a phone.
Well, now it's on your iPhone. Now it's a lot. You can do it. You don't have to be in your house. You can be anywhere. So this kid was arrested for stalking.
Yep.
And it was like interjurisdictional, because there was like 5 or 6 communities that were involved. And ultimately, I believe the state police took that case. 'Cause
Really?
it was just easier for them to do it. Because like I said, they traced the GPS serial number to like a Best Buy. Then they went to the Best Buy and they got the credit card records, and they found out it was the kid.
So there was no threat to her. It was
stalking. He was charged, and he was
stalking.
arrested and charged with stalking.
He was following her. The razor thin line between help me out here, Nathan.
Between what? Romance and stalking?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Following someone is never romantic.
Yeah, it's very creepy.
It's
That's
very
why they have the
creepy.
crime of stalking.
That is why they call it stalking. Fine.
I had my bloodhound sniff your jacket and I followed you home.
I guess that would be the old method.
That would be really old.
That would be old, really
Turn
old
of the
method.
century, like before BD, before Dave, even like 60, 70 years ago.
So did they ever figure out what this guy wanted? Was he just trying to?
Pussy!
Yeah.
That's what he wanted, was some pussy!
There is a small percentage of people, when you break up with them, they just can't let it go, and they're stalkers. They're just creepy. They're possessive. They're the domestic abusers that you read about, and every once in a while, these people, they become violent.
Yeah.
So you don't know where it would have gone.
Right. You don't know if it would have escalated.
Yeah, you
but the fact
can't
that
say that. But he got caught, and there was never an issue, to my knowledge, going forward. But like I said, it happened in a bunch of different communities, so it just happened in my community. We had certain jurisdiction on a couple of the crimes, but ultimately it happened in 5 or 6 different
That would be
places.
cool. You know what I would do if I had that inclination? I would put a marker on your car, Nathan,
Yeah?
and then wherever you were, I would be sure to be somewhere else.
I actually appreciate that. Thank you.
I think it worked out. Okay, so cheating behaviors. There were a lot of cheating
Yeah,
behaviors.
something I'm looking at the notes, and I'm saying there's a lot, but there's so many out there that you really couldn't even begin to cover them all. But in like I said, in the cell phone era, the biggest thing you have at your disposal is people that have to communicate. So whether it's a text message, a phone call, and a lot of them are like late night phone calls.
Yeah.
Like
it used to be the old thing. The phone rings in your car, in your apartment, and if a woman answers, hang up.
yeah, hang up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the most obvious. That you're out with your significant other, and the phone rings, and you look at the number, and she won't pick it up, or there's a text, and she won't answer it, and you say, "Who's that?" And she kind of gets a little nervous, and she tries to shift it to another direction. That's a little indicator that something might be going on, because who's texting your girlfriend or your wife, especially 2 a.m? The phone goes off, you're sleeping, you hear a bunch of text messages come in. That's not normal.
That's why it's good to be a comedian and hang out with comedians, because those weirdos will text you at all hours of night.
Yeah.
And any
Just to ruin your marriage.
Yeah, well, because they won't ruin your marriage, because if she's been with you long enough to be married, she's going to know that these idiots text you in the middle of the night.
Oh, okay.
And she's probably, if she's with a comedian long enough, she's probably thinking, "Oh, another woman? Fine. Hopefully she'll take them off my hands."
Another one is burner phones. Burner phones is something you really see in the drug distribution industry.
Yeah.
You deal with drug dealers. If you arrest one or deal with one of them on the street, they'll have 3 or 4 cell phones on them at any given time, because they don't want to be traced. And a lot of times, kind of going off the subject, they'll have rental cars, and they'll have cars that are registered to completely other different people. So so the burner phone is just another way to not get information on your phone. You can buy the burner phones at like Walmart, and you get the little phone cards. So no one's really going to know you have a phone unless your husband or significant other finds the phone. Then you're screwed, because how do you explain a burner phone?
Well, you could just say to him, "Look, honey,
Admit being a drug dealer.
I'm
maybe.
dealing drugs. Yeah, I'm dealing drugs. And all right, I'm just trying to think of. And so if you're gonna, if you were a cheater,
Yep.
the way you would do, how would you do a burner phone if you were a cheater? You'd skip the burner phone, or you'd just make sure it's always hidden.
Yeah, you have to hide it. Obviously,
If you can make sure it's always hidden,
you got to turn it off. Yeah,
you're fine.
You know what the thing with the burner phone and the regular phone, because what you can do and what people have done, so they'll have their regular phone and they'll tell their husband or wife, "Hey, I'm going to work." So if the husband wants to track the phone, he'll see that his wife is at work. But in reality, she just leaves the phone at work, has the burner phone, leaves work, and now is in contact with her boyfriend or girlfriend, however the situation is panning out.
Yeah.
So the other phone is just used as a decoy.
yes.
I'm at work all day.
The same thing can be true of. You can always leave the phone. I mean,
You can leave it anyway, yeah.
Right. If I'm having an affair with somebody, I know that's hard to believe. But if I was, and I've been thinking about it for 43 years, but if I was having an affair, what I would do is I would leave my phone at whatever my office was.
Yeah, wherever you were supposed to be that day.
All right. And I would make plans to meet somebody somewhere.
Yep.
And then I would go to meet that person somewhere. And then I'd have no way to reach them because I wouldn't have my burner with me.
Yeah, you have to have your burner.
Okay.
You want to know, where do you think people meet a lot, often?
Hotels. Motels.
Well, they do hotels, but we used to have a detail. A lot of police departments have details. If there's a big mall in your community, there'll be a police detail.
A mall.
So I worked a mall detail my whole career.
Okay.
I worked it all the time because it just coincided with my shift.
Okay.
And I would park in the back of the mall.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, if I worked it 3 times a week, a couple of times during that time span that I was working, I would always see a car pull up. The lights would be on. They'd flick the lights. Another car would come in. They'd flick the lights. They'd pull over. One person would get out of their car, jump into the other car, and they'd take off. So I used to run the plates. And I'd see a guy from outside of Boston, and then a lady from another community, and you can run those plates. You can say, wow, that lady's married because that car's registered to her and her husband, and the other plate I just ran, that guy's married because I just ran the plate and it's registered to him and his wife. So why are they meeting at the mall?
Yeah.
So you see that a lot of times. That's kind of like the rendezvous point,
Wow.
Dave.
Wow. I just.
So you might-
Meet me at the Chick-fil-A, lover, the food courts. I'll be eyeing you from the entrance to the Cheesecake Factory.
Because a lot of times in those locations, there's a couple of hundred cars. So what are the odds of someone seeing that? You just get caught up in the mix.
Hide in plain sight. If
Yeah.
people do see you together for some reason, you could, I just ran into Tom, Dick, whatever.
Multiple email accounts. That's an easy one.
I hold on. I gotta. I
Okay,
want to
go
go.
ahead.
I want to go back to this. All right. I want to go back to the mall and the women. You run their plates. Do you mind giving me their plates?
Sure.
All right. Multiple email accounts. That's another way. So if
That's
I
an
get-
easy one because, this podcast has a few email accounts, but we're all legit. But if you're just like an average human, you might have a couple of email accounts, your work email account,
Yeah.
maybe a Gmail, a Yahoo. But it's when you have like 3 or 4 hidden email accounts that are kind of hidden on your computer, who are you communicating with?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or if you're on a social network dating site, why would you be on a dating site under an alias?
Right. Yeah. I know
Things
somebody.
like that. So it all depends on how inquisitive the person is and how much time they have on their hands to try to snoop on their significant other. If they're out there with multiple email accounts and they're on social network dating sites and Facebook and Twitter and they're under assumed names and all that, because people do all that stuff.
Well, I think if you're on I think if you catch your wife
On a dating site,
yeah, you pretty much know that she's cheating on you.
Yeah, you would
If
think
not,
so.
she has the intent. I mean, some of the. I was going to say some of the women that I've been married with doesn't mean they're cheating, but that would be horrible to the many women that I've been married with that I have good relationships with. So
There you go.
I don't want to. You know what I'm saying?
I think.
I'm saying this, Nathan. When you get divorced,
Can't wait.
all right, think about this: that you can't say bad things about the woman because she might be the mother of your child,
Okay.
or she might just trash your back. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, you don't want that, Nathan.
Another thing, when you cheat on her, get a burner and make sure she doesn't find the burner.
All right.
So far, I love the idea.